The wonderful thing is God has placed us in this three-dimensional, actually four-dimensional world. And the way he has designed us is we can navigate that world through this thing called stereo vision. And today I'm going to show you how to create an image that recreates stereo vision using two photos in Adobe Photoshop. And we'll be creating something called an anaglyph. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've taken two images and I have them on my desktop right now. What you're going to do is you're going to take two pictures, one with where the left eye would be, and then one slightly over. So in my photography class, we already did that, so I'm just going to show you how to do the post-production on it. So this was my left eye view and my right eye view, but a single mirrorless camera made it. So I'm going to select them both, so they're both selected, and then I'm going to right-click and I'm going to choose Open with Adobe Photoshop. And then in a moment, it's going to, because these were raw images, it's going to open up Adobe Photoshop Camera Raw. And I want to select both of them. I'm going to hold Shift on my keyboard, select them, so now you can see they're both highlighted, so that whatever changes I make to one, it's going to make to the other. I can make adjustments to the exposure if I need to, or the shadows. Maybe I'm going to bring those shadows up a little bit more so I can see into that fan a little bit more. And then maybe adjust those highlights, bring them down a little bit, and then maybe I want to make it a little bit snappier. So I'm going to bring up that texture, and I punch in so I can see that texture and clarity a little bit more. And then maybe I've lost some detail in there. Maybe bring up them shadows a tiny bit more so I can see that, punch out. And maybe that's the edits that I want. One more thing that I like to do when doing this is I like to, under the optics section here, I expand that optics section, and I'm going to choose the remove chromatic aberration. And then that is set. Now I don't want to click done. What I want to do is click open, and then it's going to open up both images in Adobe Photoshop in a moment, and they will be open and in different tabs. So I have a tab here and a tab here. So each image is different. Now if I wanted to, I could name one left and I can name the other one right, but that really is not necessary. A lot of times people make a mistake. They forget which one is which, the left or the right. So I'm going to show you how to recognize the mistake and then how to fix it. So regardless of what you title them in here. So I have one here and one here. What I want to do is I want to take one of them and I want to put it into the other one. In order to do that, you've got a couple of ways you can do it. This is my active window. This is a tab that is selected. I could go select all, and then I could go edit, copy, and that copies everything on this layer. And then I could go to the other one and I can go edit, paste, and then it pasted it in. And now I have a document that has two layers. There's another way you can do that, so I'm going to undo that. Another way to do it is I can be over here. I don't need to have everything selected. I'm going to deselect. Is I can pull this out. So now I have, this is my active window on top. I can simply click on this background layer and I can drag it into the one that is not on the active one here. I can drag it back here and now it's going to show up back here. Either way, it did the same thing. I can move this window. This one I'm already done with, because if we look here, this has two layers, a layer one and a background, and this one only has one layer. If I click this is the active window now, only has one layer. I'm done with it. I'm going to close the one that has one, and I'm going to click Don't Save, and then I'll move this here and maximize it so we can see. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to take this layer one, and I'm going to double click it, double click this gray area right here, and then I'm going to uncheck this R. That stands for the red channel. And then I can see that it kind of has a 3D look. I'm done in here. I'm going to click OK. And then what I want to do is I want to align this red and cyan image so that it only looks like there is one image, not a double image. But I can't do that across the whole image. I can only do it in one area because these two images have something called parallax. So I'm going to hold Command plus and zoom in, and I have to see, well, what do I want to align? Now I know it looks like a big mess, but what I want to find is both in the foreground and the background the things that match. So this is on one of them, this is on another of the layers, so I can kind of try and align them. so that it makes only one image. So, but where would people want to look at this photo? They probably want to look toward the center. So I can align the center. And I have the move tool. The shortcut for the move tool is the V key on the keyboard. And then I can move it. And then I'm holding the left mouse button, that is. And then I can drag this around. The other thing I can do is use the arrow keys on the keyboard to kind of fine tune that. So I have it aligned right here in the middle. Then I'm going to command minus and punch out. And then you can see that it is aligned here, but it's not aligned there. And there's some areas where it doesn't fully align. But I'm going to go ahead and command plus, zoom in. And at this moment, you can't see right now, I put on some 3D glasses and I realize, yes, that is really popping out. If you have some red cyan glasses, if you put them on and take a look at this, it'll look like it's really popping out. A lot of depth here. I can see underneath this, a lot more three-dimensional. And then it would be done. But I'm going to actually show you if someone made a mistake in this and what it would look like. So right now it looks pretty 3D. Some of the other mistakes that some people make is sometimes if an image has a lot of red in it and they put on the red, or a lot of green or a lot of yellow, they put on the glasses and it gives some eye fatigue. So sometimes we want to take this image and actually make it black and white. Now we will not use our adjustment layers for that. Instead, we need to make the layer actually black and white and not adjust all the layers below it. So with that top layer selected, I'm going to choose Image Adjustments, Black and White. And then it asks me, well, do I want to shift those colors around? I'll say no, I'm just going to leave them where they are, and I'm just going to click OK. Now I did that to my top layer, now I need to do that to my background layer. So I select my background layer, choose Image Adjustments, and Black and White. And I click OK, and now it is looking very three-dimensional. And if you have 3D glasses, then you would want to take a look at that. So I can punch in a little bit, and it really looks 3D. But, so one mistake I had mentioned was maybe if there's too much red and not going black and white. The other mistake people will make is if their image is a little bit rotated, then what I suggest you do is you get that move tool and make sure Show Transform Controls is on. Go to that top layer, and then if it were crooked, you can rotate it and make sure it's lined up. Though this image really isn't crooked, so I'm not going to do that. But you could rotate it and then make adjustments to make sure that it's lined up properly. But again, I was only lining up, or I was trying to align just this middle area. And then the last mistake people sometimes make is they get the layer in the wrong order. So in order to notice it, if you put on your 3D glass and you look at it and it seems a little 3D, but it's starting to hurt your eyes. One reason would be if people moved too much between the two photos, or they have the layer order wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click this top layer again, and I'm going to recheck that R, and I'm going to unlock the background layer, and I'm going to show you what it would look like if it were wrong. So you're going to need 3D glasses to see that. But now I'm going to take layer 0, put it above layer 1. I'm going to double click layer 0, uncheck the R, click OK, and then take a look at that. And if I look at it now with the 3D glasses, you can't see what I'm seeing, but if you have 3D glasses, you notice that it seems kind of 3D, but it doesn't seem to be popping out. It seems like my eyes are a little bit backward. Things that should be further away seem like they're popping out, and vice versa. So I'm going to double click that top layer, recheck that R, because that is really supposed to be my background layer. I'll put it below layer 1, and I will double click that top layer, hit R, click OK, and then I've got a much better 3D. So if I punch in and look at that, it really looks three-dimensional. A lot of texture in here. And I might just adjust what I am aligning, but again, I would get that move tool and use the arrow key and decide what it is that I want people to look at, where do I want them to hang out in that image. And you can experiment with aligning something that's really close in the foreground or a little bit in the midground or in the background. What I really like is this bit of texture here. So I think I'm going to try to align that, and I'm just using the arrow key on my keyboard, trying to align it and trying to make it seem like that the ghost images kind of disappear. And now I feel like that's pretty good. Or maybe I might go kind of the in between of that. And I'm just using the arrow key to kind of frame it up. And I think kind of the middle ground of this area, then I still get that pop and this pop. So again, if you're looking at this with red cyan glasses, it would be easier. And I'm gonna punch out. And the last thing I want to do, so I take off my red cyan glasses for this last couple of steps. I want to crop. I want to get rid of the stuff that I don't want. So I can see here, this would be a distraction in a 3D image because there is no overlap anymore. So I'm going to crop that out and it kind of snaps to that. And I don't want anything beyond that. You see that where it doesn't work. Same thing, so I want to crop this. And sometimes it helps to crop in pretty tight, but I'm going to maybe crop in about here. And then I'm going to hit enter, and then it cropped it. And then if I zoom in, then I can see that. Last step for this, if I feel like I'm done with it and don't want them layers anymore, I want to turn this into a JPEG image that I can send to other people to take a look at. I'm going to go ahead and do a file and choose save a copy, and I'm going to call this 3D1 and my name. And then I'm not going to save this as a Photoshop file. I'm actually going to save this as a JPEG because I want other people to be able to see this with the layers burnt in. And then I'm going to click save. And then I might have to do some permissions thing. And then I'm going to make sure that that quality is cranked all the way to 12, the maximum. Click OK. And then I am done with this. But I'm just going to minimize Photoshop for right now. And then here is the image. And if you have your red cyan glasses and pop them on, you'll notice that this looks very 3D. And that is the basics on how to create a red cyan anaglyph using Adobe Photoshop. I hope you can continue to tell and live good stories.